Gentlemen, thank you for being here. Thanks for a very long morning to be able to go through this kind of dialogue. There are a lot of questions that you've peppered through over the course of the day. Let me bring up some specifics that maybe we haven't dealt with already. The administration has put out a point-of-sale effort for the DIR fees. Does anyone here have a problem with what the administration has put out so far as a recommendation for how to do a point-of-sale effort for DIRs?
Are you talking about the point-of-sale rebate?
Yes.
Yeah. So we really support the sentiment. We believe that lowering costs at the counter is really crucial to patients. However, I'm not convinced that this mechanism is going to be very successful. A couple things. One is it shifts costs to the taxpayer. CMS auditors have estimated that to be about $196 billion over the next 10 years. Second is many patients, it will pay down their copay, so they'll get stuck on a branded product instead of switching to a generic that is equally effective and therefore continuing to cause high costs. Third is that when you make the rebates publicly known, it will make our ability to negotiate deeper discounts that much less effective, and so you won't get as effective discounts. And so you'll decrease our negotiations. You'll take the pressure off of pharmaceutical companies. You'll raise the premium for 100% of the beneficiaries while only helping a minority of the beneficiaries. And so we believe while the intent is really good, there are targeted ways to achieve the same thing without these problems.
What would that be?
So one of the things we did is if you look at the categories of drugs that are creating the pain for the patients at the pharmacy counter, they fall into several buckets. It's diabetic agents, it's hepatitis C, it's asthma. Those are the ones that actually, if you had a targeted solution for those, you would actually relieve most of the patients that have the problem. If you think about patients with cancer who have an enormous burden at the counter, because there are no rebates in those products, they don't benefit at all from moving the rebate to the point of sale.
Right. Does anyone have any other feedback on that, on both the administration's recommendation or responses to it?
Yes, Senator. We are absolutely supportive of the administration's goal of reducing out-of-pocket costs for seniors and lowering overall health care costs. We, too, when we look at the proposed rule, have a few concerns where there may be elements of it that would drive costs higher, actually not lower. The types of solutions that we would put forward are, again, point-of-sale rebates as an option, and we were the first Med D plan to provide that option in 2019 for seniors who want to sign up. In addition to that, we would also be very supportive of preventive drug lists with $0 copays. Again, as another means of reducing the out-of-pocket burden for seniors that we're all worried about. So
let me switch subjects on this a little bit. When I talk to independent pharmacies, they will talk about the DIR fees 100% of the time and clawbacks. They are a standalone rural pharmacy, and there are two issues that come up. Let me deal with them in order. One of them is obviously they get a bill at some point for $50,000 that they're clawing back from something 6-7 months ago before, and they didn't know that that was coming back. Obviously, cash flow becomes exceptionally difficult on that. They will reference that there are performance metrics put on them, but I can never hear what those performance metrics are. Can anyone give me an example of what performance metrics might be for an independent pharmacy to avoid the clawbacks?
Senator, I'm a pharmacist. Forever, pharmacists have wanted to be paid for cognitive services, to be paid to be at the top of the license.
I get it, I'm limited on time, but I understand for the cognitive part of it.
Yes, sir. So the example of performance fees that we put in place to get the pharmacist engaged are things that will help the patient with drug adherence, identify those patients who are not as adherent, engage with them. And through these programs, we've seen a 2 percentage point increase in drug adherence in several disease states year over year over year because of getting the pharmacist engaged in a value-based conversation, just like we ask doctors in hospitals.
All right. Any other examples of metrics? Are those proprietary, the metrics that go out to independent pharmacies?
Hey, Chuck.
No, they're not?
Senator, no.
Okay, we'll kind of walk through that somewhat. I have had several independent pharmacists that have said to me they'll have a particularly large requirement for a DIR fee clawback, and within 2 weeks after that big check comes in, they'll get a phone call from a PBM that also owns pharmacies that will say, how are things going? Would you consider selling to us? They find those things strangely coincidental, that they have a big check for a clawback and then a phone call to say, are you interested in being able to sell back to us? Now, I would certainly hope those two are not aligned, but that is a concern that they have that is expressed. I can't be the first person that's expressed that to anyone here. Let me express one thing, because I don't expect us to be able to answer that without knowing the specifics on it, on the location. Do you ever negotiate a higher list price for a drug to give you more flexibility on the rebate side? Is there a time when you work with a manufacturer to negotiate a higher list price to give you more flexibility? And have each of you answer that.
No.
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 No. No.
Do any of you ever, when a generic comes available, do you put the formulary, the generic on a formulary with the branded group? So there's branded tiers, generic tiers and such, where the generic would enter the formulary in a branded tier. Does that happen with you at all on the pricing?
I would have to, because of the basis of the large number of drugs, I'd have to get back to you if there's any specific example, but that would not be our practice.
Okay. Mr. Ross.
Senator, our focus is providing the lowest cost option.
So the generics would not be on a branded tier?
If it's the lowest cost option.
Senator, I can think of limited circumstances, very rare where that's the case, usually because of the 6-month exclusivity rule when a generic hits the market.
Senator, our objective is around lowest net cost for drugs and what tier goes on. But in terms of I'm not sure if there's be examples where that might occur, but it would be rare.
Okay.
Senator, I can't think of a specific example, but our model would be to prefer the lowest net cost drug
To the consumer?
to the plan
Okay.
for the benefit of the member.
Okay. Senator Wyden.